Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the 100. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, there's a whole situation on Sanctum. Obviously, Indra's trying to do her best to juggle everything, because obviously they end up finding out, holy crap, some of our guns were stolen. Well, not some of our guns, all of our guns were stolen with over 2,000 rounds of ammunition. That's not good. Then at the same time, it's like, oh, why wasn't the guns guarded? Oh, because one crew isn't doing what you say anymore just because they're like, oh, like they've been kind of completely turned against you. So it's like, okay. And obviously there's a whole situation with quote unquote Russell, but actually Shade Hader like being out and about. And she's like, no. You take him back inside. He's supposed to have like 10 minutes outside. It's like, no, that's done. Because can't take the chance for him to be whispering in anybody's ears. And so there's a whole situation of obviously it's the thing of like, you were also told not to talk to him, so you are off the job of looking after him. And obviously it turns into a thing where Indra, ends up, talking to him. And it is a complicated thing where it's like, there's only 3 people who've ever held the flame associated with this entire group. Clark, Maddie, and him. And he's ultimately like, that's what you're actually afraid of, that the fact of the matter is they'll follow me, which I'm sure he's leaning into that belief that they'll, follow him and everything. So it's just... The sad thing is, Indra is not as in control as she would want to be. She's like, oh, you're my prisoner and everything, but he's not acting like it. It's like, oh, he doesn't seem like he's backed into a corner the way Indra kind of feels like she has put him in one. So Indra doesn't really have much of a rebuttal to like, oh yeah, you're worried, you're scared they're going to follow me. And he's like, and if I were you, I'd be scared too. And it's like, Jesus, once again, showing you how menacing he is. So she leaves. Later on, they send in, what's his name, Nelson, to kind of beat him up or whatever. And I was curious to see how that was going to play out. Didn't expect Shade Hader to kind of kick Nelson's ass. To be fair, it's like, he's got all the training, because, he was a warrior. Even this is a new body. It's like all that experience exists in that body. He's, like, fighting with one hand, too. That kind of puts it to shame. But I was like, oh, poor Nelson. I was actually kind of expecting him to kill Nelson, but then he was like, no. Actually, I'm not Russell. He explains everything. I was like, shit. I was like, I never would have thought the first person you basically get on your side are the children of Gabriel. The irony behind that. Granted, you're not Russell. The Russell they want revenge against is dead. But obviously for Nelson, it's the thing of like, yeah, but like, we want justice. And like, it's not like, what can I do with all of this? And he's like, you don't want justice. Well, you want justice. You need power, because he's like, that's what you want. That's what the convicts want. Basically, he wants Nelson to get basically the children of Gabriel as well as the convicts on his side. So it's like, dude, so you're borderlining already got 3 of the 4 groups potentially on your side. You kind of got the children of Gabriel obviously on your side. You got the believers on your side, and now you're fully trying to get 100% of the children of Gabriel while also getting the convicts on your side. And obviously, they got no love for like that group, like because of Raven. We'll get to that in a second, but like they have no love for that group. So like Hutch, what was his name? Hutch, his wife, or was it Hatch? I keep messing that up. His wife has no love for them, so like obviously she's well let's skip to it. Like there's a whole conversation with her, like Indra, her, and Murphy, and so there's a whole thing about like did some stuff was stolen. She's like, oh, you think my group was behind it? And I love how she slipped it, because she's like, oh, because we took the guns. It's like, and I love Indra being like, we never actually said what was stolen, so you kind of slipped. I was like, ooh, that's pretty smart of you, Indra, kind of luring her into a trap like that. But obviously for her, it's like Raven, it's like she's like, because she looks at Murphy, it's like, your blood was altered, so you were never in any danger going in there, but Raven sent my husband in there to die. So it's like, when you see Raven next, tell her bang bang, and it's like, oh, that sucks. So now it's a situation of like, oh, that's not going to be good. Not good at all. So it's like, now Raven's going to have a target on her back the moment she comes back, all this other shit on Sanctum is going to go down before they end up getting back anyway, but still. And I love that line from Murphy being like, wow, and I thought Dioza was like a handful. And then Indra just looks at him, he just shrugs his shoulders like, what? But nevertheless, I also like the fact of the matter is, obviously because of what Russell, Shade Hader, said the last episode, everyone still believes him to be like, still sees Murphy as one of the primes. And so that dude, was it Jeremiah, sits down with him. He's like, how about I just call you Jerry? I'm like, okay, Murphy. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna have to owe you that drink and stuff like that. I'm like, where's that storyline gonna go? I'm curious. It's gonna be interesting. But nevertheless, with all of this going down, Indra's kind of in a very complicated situation because it's like, okay, so what do I do? And she ends up confiding in Maddie about everything, except for the shade hater aspect. She kind of still kept that tight-lipped, but it's like, I know you're scared about this, but I need you, because it's like, for her, it's like everything's spinning out of control. They need a commander to step up to kind of rein all of this back in, because if Maddie doesn't rein them in, shade hater sure as hell will, because, well, we'll get to it soon enough. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about, because Murphy was like, would they really follow him? And it's like that crew, that the crew that he's originally from, that Shea Hater's from, they would follow him, and then the rest of one crew would definitely bow down to him. She's like, yeah, because I've seen it before. She talked about it with her own experience with her own family, like bowing down to him and everything. So he's that, that savage and that cruel of a leader, that like he has that type of presence that he makes everyone like feel like, no, you bow down to me and me alone type of situation. So. But she wants to get Maddie involved in all this, because I get it. I'll have to talk to Clark, but the fact of the matter is this has to happen. I know you're scared. So Maddie gets put in that position, but Jackson, Emory, and Murphy show up to stop her. But for her, it's like she needs to do this. But they're like, and Maddie kind of stops and gets nervous. And they basically say she had a panic attack and she runs away. She's like, I can't do this. I'm sorry. So I think my thought is, because I was like, I thought it was so interesting, because I'm like, you've done it before, being the whole commander thing. But then, like, I think there's twofold to that. One, you no longer had the flame. She probably felt confident in being the commander because at least she had the other commanders inside of the flame to guide her. She's on her own. So any decision she makes, she'd have to do it on her own. She wouldn't have the wisdom and basically every other commander by her side. She doesn't have Clark right now by her side to kind of help her. So there's that. But also it's like, I think it's like she's got a little taste of freedom in the sense that like she actually gets to have a childhood. That's always what, Clark has always wanted for her, to just basically be able to live her life to be a kid. But the fact of the matter is, like, she got a little taste of that. It's like she's never really had any friends, because all she really, probably when she was super young, but that was almost like a lifetime ago for her, in many different regards. But the fact of the matter is, like, she was off being the commander, like, in season 5, partial, some of 6 as well, so it's like, she spent that time, like, she's never had an opportunity to just have friends. She was just kind of like, I have, because, truth be told, is like a lot of her family, her friends are associated with Clark. They're not her friends necessarily. They're people she heard about through stories of Clark's, so it's like, it's a little different from like friends you make on your own. It seemed like she was making some in this episode, so it's that thing of just like, I think it's a little bit of both, but I assume, like I said, I could be mistaken, but I feel like the former of like, not having the other commanders back her up, no longer having their voices in her head, their wisdom, I think that kind of makes her not as confident about the whole thing, so. But then it's kind of like Murphy was like, basically they're suggesting, why don't you become the commander? And she's like, Indra's like, what? No, I'm not a commander, I'm a warrior. It's like, yeah, but, what was it Murphy said? It was basically like a backhanded compliment, because he's like, who's the, I forgot what he said. I wish I could remember. It was basically like, who's the toughest person to deal with or something like. I'm butchering it. I don't remember exactly what he said. So Indra goes out there, and I love Murphy being like, can we watch? And she's like, no. And Murphy's like, well, I'm going to watch. And so Indra steps in there, and you're like, oh, where's our commander? It's like, there's no more commander, but you will basically follow me. He's like, oh, you're asking us to follow you? I was like, oh, please say what and she's like, and she says what I thought she was going to say. I was like, hell yeah. She's like, I'm not asking. I was like, hell yeah. Indra don't ask, So she kind of puts home dude down. I think his name is Knight. So it's like she embarrasses him in front of everybody. I was like, are you going to kill him? Like, that's what I thought she was going to do some like Blood Raina stuff. Because that's another thing Murphy was saying. Like, we all know who really ran the show when Octavia was just running around with blood on her face. I was like, Jesus. But nevertheless, it's a thing of like, you were the kind of like her second in command. Like, you were the one she kind of had to listen to in the whole situation. You're the one that kind of gave her guidance. So it's like, you've been there through so many commanders, so it's like it makes sense, because Indra's always kind of been the go-between in many different regards. Like, once again, like her and Kane being kind of the representatives, her from Tree Crew, him being from Sky Crew. Like, there was, once again, so it's only befitting that Indra kind of takes over. And so I love the whole situation of like, okay, what you're going to do is, Knight, you and your crew, your group, you're going to be getting those guns back from those convicts. That's it. Bounces, deuces. And it's just like, and you have like Murphy almost just being like, yeah, celebrating a little bit for her. So that's an interesting situation. Once again, the whole Nelson and God, Shade Hater deal is still has to, because they're planning on, it's like, oh, like if you want the power and stuff like that, you have a common enemy, it's time to take out the queen. So Indra's going to be the means. Well, I'm assuming it'd be Indra. I wouldn't think they'd go after Maddie, because Indra's the thing in a way, because especially because she keeps threatening to kill him when it's all said and done. But it's like, now there's at least two other people who know the truth, that being Murphy and Imori, about the whole Shade Hater thing. So I mean, I wonder how many other people are going to ever be in the know about all of that. So that's a lot of stuff to be going down on Sanctum. Okay, so there's that. Then we follow our, Clark and the others on that ice planet. I even love Nyla making, like, puns. She's like, yeah, it's cool. It's cool. You get it? Cool? And Jordan's just looking at her. I'm like, what? You making puns out of nowhere? I love that. And then the fact of the matter is, it's kind of like, oh, they find out that basically this is like a planet they dumped their dead. And it was like, and they're like, oh, why do I recognize this symbol? We'll get to that later on. But obviously they're trying to get to the next, bridge and get out of here. And so it involves them crawling in a cave. And I even love, like, Raven being like, basically like, oh, you chickens, like, anyone's too scared to go in first. So she goes in first, and they're crawling through, which once again, she's like, I hope no one's claustrophobic. Like, I don't know if I'm claustrophobic. I mean, maybe because I'm a fat dude, so like immediately it makes me uncomfortable, because I'm like, I will definitely get stuck. And maybe I just naturally maybe I'm just naturally, regardless of being a fat dude, like maybe just like I'm claustrophobic regardless, because I don't know how I deal with tight spaces, but it does seem like it does make me uncomfortable. I might have a touch of claustrophobia. Who knows? But nevertheless, and the fact of the matter is, they're getting attacked by that spider thing that looks like something out of Alien because of the mouth it has and stuff. It's like, Jesus. Crawling their way through. Everyone's kind of nervous because it's like, what's all that noise? And then finding out, like, basically they make their way through and it's like, all right, let's go back. Wait, the cave path we just went down, we crawled through, it's like, it's gone. It's like, wait, what? Jordan touches it and it's acid, and it's like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, did this play... What? I'm like, what the hell is that all about? Side note, I also love when they ended up finding that dude's body and Jordan was like, not an alien. Bummer. It's like, well, it's a human. He's like, bummer. And you're looking at him like, what? He's like, well, it would have been, if it was an alien, it would have been awesome. Because I love that. That is actually an interesting thing about this series. It's like, yeah, all this space and stuff. They've actually never run into any aliens. That could always, because once again, I've heard talks about there's supposed to be a spinoff to the 100. I don't know what necessarily it pertains to. I'd assume it'd be something kind of very similar to like a Legacies type of situation. I'd assume. I could be mistaken. But regardless of all of that, it's like, would you eventually get down to that? Because all we've ever come across are other humans. To be fair, these are the same humans they just left all those years. Regardless, that's the whole thing. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, and I love Nate being like, yeah, you still excited about this? Aliens and stuff. And then Jordan still kind of has a smile on his face, like almost like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely Monty's kid, right? But the fact of the matter is, when it's all said and done, though, like Clark and Raven get separated from everyone else because the cave closes and like shifts around them. It's like, what the hell is this? And it's like, right, the acid. It's like, it's basically enzyme acid. It's basically like stomach acid for digesting. It's like, they're in a living thing. This cave isn't just a cave, it's a living organism. Which is like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And so obviously, like, Raven's still dealing with the fact that she killed people. It's like, I sent those people in there, and plus I killed 8 more, people from board it. And so it's like, Bardon, I said that weird. Bardo, sorry. So for her, she's still kind of dealing with that, and she's one like it's like for her, it's like you always find a way to keep on, like no matter what happens, like nothing ever breaks Clark Griffin, and she's like don't, and that's not the case, which is like Clark doesn't show it a lot, but like obviously there have been plenty of instances. I'm not trying to take anything away from her. It's like I think that shows her strength that she has been broken down like multiple times, but she always picks herself up and just kind of pushes forward. And now obviously for Raven, she's like, you're able to kind of trudge along despite everything, you know? And so for her, it's like, all those people I killed. And then, you know, Clark is like, yeah, but you killed, like, the people we kill, we do to protect the people that we love. But then Raven's like, they have people they love too, you know, especially in Hatch's case, because it's like, obviously, his wife and everything. So it's like, it makes you just kind of, it's just like, is this all that we are type of situation that keeps coming up? It's like, you know, when will this, is this how it's always going to be? When will it ever end? It's like, well, it won't end here today. This right here won't be where our story ends, essentially. But then Raven also confides in her, the reason why, like, I could have easily gone in there and fixed that stuff, but I sent them to their deaths. She's like, because I was scared, you know? And I don't think that's ever an easy thing for someone to admit, you know. And it's sad, her own fear, you know. So I thought it was mainly because it's like, they're criminals and you're thinking they're expendable, you don't like them. But it's like, no, because she was afraid. Like, she literally sent everyone else but herself, you know. So, and Clark trying to make her feel better is like, no, like the fact didn't matter is the others are going to get to us and everything's going to be okay. And luckily, everything does end up shifting around and they are reunited, but it's like, hey, let's get the hell out of here. I love constantly throughout the entire episode, it kept being like, I hate this place. I hate this place. And it's just kind of like, all right, so how about the next place you pick is somewhere with a beach? And then like Jordan was like, yeah, preferably somewhere with creatures that don't want to eat humans. So they go to what I assume is Bordeaux. What's also interesting though is they see the symbol and they're like, and Nate's like, yo, Naya, and it's like, wait, that's from the bunker. So it's like, how is something from there? Which we now know, like, stuff we got to learn last episode insinuates that there was a stone on Earth. So people from Earth probably got scattered to different planets in all of this, like, this system of planets and stuff like that. Which once again, it's always an interesting thing because, like, in retrospect, I mean, obviously, this is stuff they've added along. Like, it retroactively changes past canon, but it's just interesting because, like, all that time they've spent on Earth, because they spent like they've spent 5 seasons, but obviously that's more like, because I think technically speaking, Clark's supposed to be, I think I was reading somewhere she's like 24, 25 now. They were 18 when they got there, so obviously there was a 5-year time skip. And there's probably like some months in between 2 and 3. 1 to 2 is fairly quickly. So it's like, it's probably been like, I'd say 7 years maybe in totality over the course of the series. Like at least from like season 1 to 5, maybe. Like I said, I don't know the 100% the time. I don't remember the time frame 100% between like 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. For example, but, you know, 4 to 5, we definitely know it's like 5 years. But regardless, tangents and all that. But it's just like, they never discovered, like, any of that other stuff. But I always bring it up, like, they were on a small portion of the planet. They never, like, fully went searching the entire planet. They went to other areas over the course of the series, but it was never, like, a full scope of, like, oh, we've been around this entire planet. Not really. Maybe they've hinted to it in the past that they did a lot more searching than I'm remembering. To be fair, it's been a while, but nevertheless, I just think that's kind of an interesting element. So there's that. So where they pop up next, we'll ultimately have to wait and see. Then there's everything with Dioza. We got Octavia's side of things last episode. Now we got Dioza's, and that's kind of interesting how that all works out. I wonder, is that timey-wimey stuff, like the fact is her finally making her escape, or was it just because, well, I guess, which is interesting because it's like literally all these years that have passed and stuff like that, your daughter's in her 20s now, and it's like you're just escaping, and it's just like, oh, you feel like it's only been like days since she saw, well, to be fair, because Octavia got there after. Because the way it made, I forgot, we're going from a place with a slower time frame to a faster, because Bordeaux moves at a faster time rate, because I was thinking, like, because when Octavia got there, she saw Dioza, so it's like, okay, So Dioza, it wasn't a thing of like, oh, like she showed up. Because I'm forgetting, like, they were taken there at the same time. I'm so stupid. Because I forgot they were taken to Bardo at the same time. I forgot. But it's just crazy to think about, like, she's probably been there same amount of time Octavia has, like 2 or 3 weeks at most. And just to think, like, literally all this other stuff is literally happening at time. Regardless, Dioza making her escape, being who she is. It's like, it's Dioza. And I love her being like, you touch me again, we're going to have a problem. Dude does it again. They're trying to, like, because she would, and Dioza doesn't break easily, so, like, every time, like, she's hurting herself while she's hooked up to the machine, so they can't read her memories. So they're trying to break her, like, trying to, like, sleep deprive her and stuff like that. They come in after the whole thing. She kicks their asses. They lock her up, and then the dude's, like, giving her water and drinking stuff to drink and to eat, and then, like, she's acting like she's gagging or something. He gets close to her, and then she bites on his neck. He's like, okay, I'll let you go. And he uncuffs her. She's like, thank you. And then rips his neck anyway. I'm like, yeah. Savage. Dioza manages to escape, take a few more bodies as she goes down. Because in particular, she made sure to kill home dude because she saw the scar on the suit. It's like, oh, it's you. Bam. I made sure. That's 3 times you touched me. Bam. And she's like, well, make this 3 times, and ended up killing him. Then she throws her knife at someone's helmet, but then Hope takes her helmet off. It's like, Hope, wait, it's the crew. Everyone's reunited. Hell yeah, this is dope. Let's get out of here. Obviously, Echo's kind of upset, and the Dioza's like, what's that all about? Bellamy's dead, and it's like, shit. And it's so sad because she lost a person she cares about, but at that moment, like, Dioza is there holding the people she cares about, her daughter and Octavia, because obviously, because it was something that came up in season 6. In the season 5 parts of season 6, it was the whole thing of, like, there's commonality between them. They found both kind of devils in their own right, join forces and everything, right? But they become family, so it's kind of like Dioza's able to kind of reunite with her family, kind of being there for Octavia having lost hers, and obviously Echo kind of losing hers, and because her family was Bellamy as well. So obviously they're planning to leave, but it's like there's probably people waiting. Home dude is there, like, no, like, don't, they're waiting for you. And it's like, okay, there's like a passage to the surface. It's not that safe, but you guys should be fine. And it's like, okay. And it's like, well, you're a janitor now. He's like, yeah, but I'm still working on the stuff. They can't 100% get rid of me because they need my input and a lot of stuff. So he's like, and it's like, oh, and it's like, you showed me a different way to live and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. Like Octavia and him potentially. It's so interesting, like how their story got built the way it did. It's like, oh, I'm reading your memories because I'm basically watching the show by reading your memories and stuff like that. Like I brought up last episode, she has to knock him out to make it look good, so they bounce. But then Gabriel's kind of looking back. I'm like, what the hell was that about? Then they're about to go out, but Gabriel's the one that's the most reluctant. Like, oh, we can't. So it's like, but then the guy walks in and he's like, wait, what? They're like, how do we get to the surface? It's like, yeah, but you won't survive. And, Octavia's like, I trust. So, I keep forgetting his name all the time. It's like, and Echo kills the dude, and even I'm like, shit, Echo's a little kill happy. Gabriel's like, why'd you do that? And Dioza's like, Octavia said home dude's name. We might need him on the inside, so and it's like, okay. So it's like, all right, let's go. And he's like, no, we can't. Like, there's no guarantee. And Echo's like, he just wants to do all this because of, the scientist in him, the study of like, oh, what he can learn. And he's like, no, like the fact of the matter is, I care about us. I just don't want us to die. And it's like, we kind of have to take a chance. Gabriel, not willing to, knocks everybody out. And it's just like, it comes from a place of, yeah, it's a chance you might have died. I get it. And he's like, you don't want to take that chance. But it's like, you're also putting yourself in a position where these people can continue to use you. Like, is that really favorable either? Because this compromises everyone back in Sanctum, especially because they want a shit ton of information on Clark and everything. So what they were doing to Dioza and Octavia, you're literally going to put everyone else, Hope, Echo, yourself, in that situation. So I'm curious. I'm curious, is the need for discovery, has it, whether Gabriel says it or not, has it kind of outweighed, self-preservation in this regard? Begs the question, like I said, a lot of fascinating things. I'm curious to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward. Once again, we are trudging right along in this season. This is episode 6. which is kind of a bummer when you just think about it, but at the same time, it's like so close yet so far away. We got 10 episodes left in this show. Once again, depending on like if the entire show is done, I'd assume it is, but you know, just the way like the CW kind of goes about production stuff sometimes, at least some of their shows, I'd assume the entire season's complete. I haven't looked into it, so I'd assume all 16 episodes were finished before, you know, all productions were shut down. I don't know. That begs the question. Regardless, I'm interested to see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.